Fran played that role of mentor beautifully, both bringing her wealth of experience, but also her lifelong learner mindset, which was really great to see. So really, um, yeah, grateful to her for being here and sharing what she's been experimenting with, and bringing to life, since April. So yeah, over to you, Fran.
Thanks so much, Zoe, and thanks everyone for being here and sharing your time with us. It is such a joy to meet all of you, and really nice to meet some of you in the breakouts before as well. As Zoe mentioned, I'm Fran. I am co-founder and head of community at One Roof. I'd love to share a little bit about One Roof to provide the context. One Roof started about 10 years ago now as a physical co-working space in Melbourne in a place called South Bank. And it was the leading co-working space for women specifically in Australia and top five globally. And it is another case study, I would say, for experimentation and prototyping in the way that the concept came about. It was a true experiment and really led us to where we are today. We did change the business model along the way, so we are no longer a co-working space in order to serve more women and more entrepreneurs nationally. We have moved online and we are now a community-driven, all-in-one digital platform supporting women to start or grow their businesses. Now, I have to say there was a catalytic event for this, which happened in 2020. Some of you may have been around for it. And it was actually really good timing because the lease for our space was up anyway, and it was slated, the co-working physical space was slated for demolition. So I can't even physically go back if I wanted to. It's now high-rise apartments, but it was a really serendipitous moment where our physical community was still looking for connection, and so were many people all across Australia, and specifically, women in business, because it was such an isolating time for everyone here on the call, I'm sure, and for all of us. So that's a little bit of a background about One Roof, and I came on as a late stage co-founder to help with the digital transformation. And I'm really excited to share what we've been working on. Uh, I will go into in a bit of detail, but to set the context at a high level, we'll go to the next slide. So, one of the things that we have just launched is an experience for our community. It is a national conference. We have never done this before, but to celebrate 10 years, we decided to put on a conference. And for some reason, we decided to do it across 4 cities. I nearly wanted to do it in 5 cities, but thought I might burn out by the end and didn't quite want to do that. So we are taking this conference to Adelaide, Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne. And I really wanted to go to Perth as well, but we'll have to save it for next year. And Adelaide was the first city that we decided to take it to because Adelaide and South Australia has actually been a really trailblazing place in the world of gender equity. So some of you may already know this, and apologies if I'm repeating myself and you've heard this before, but South Australia was one of the first places in the world to allow women to vote as well as to stand for parliament. So technically New Zealand was the first place in the world just by under a year, I want to say 1893, to allow women the right to vote, closely followed by South Australia the following year in 1894. However, it's a first because South Australia allowed women to stand for Parliament as well. So, a really wonderful place and where we decided to kick off the conference. Now, also serendipitous timing on our part because the Adelaide conference was last week, and the remaining three are back to back next month. So we've got a bit of time to implement learnings, and would really love all of your input here. Into a part of the evolution of the conference. Now, we decided to call it Own Conference. So, Taylor Swift is my inspiration, and she has so much layered meaning in all her lyrics, and we love an acronym, so we went for it. It's called OWN because it stands for One Roof Women's National Conference, and it is for women who own their own business, who are owning their impact and owning their journey. So we do have a lot of entrepreneurs who also run charities or not-for-profits and social enterprises. So it's not just purely, commercial businesses in that sense. It's really for anyone who's running their own thing. And so we decided to create this conference so as a place where women could connect with like-minded founders, be really open and honest with, the ups and downs that is the roller coaster ride of entrepreneurship, and engagement and being active in an experience is something that I'm really inspired by, having done the program with Zoe and Ramon recently. And so it's constantly, an overlay across everything I do. The meaningful outcomes that we wanted to go with were community, enlightenment, and truth. And so some of you may already be familiar with the core 15 meanings here, which are the types of experiences people value. So a little bit about, I might unpack some of these for us and why we chose these out of the 15. So we are a community at One Roof, and so community had to be the top one there. But what that means is we were going for connection there, that as the core pillar within community. The definition of community here is a sense of unity with others around us and a general connection with other human beings. And so the conference was a point of connection physically that our members had been wanting. At One Roof, we do offer virtual programming. There's 2 or 3 things on every single week because we do have a lot of regional founders or founders living with disability or working parents who can't get physically to attend things. And so we cater for that as much as we can as well. But we are also offering a lot of in-person events. And so community, that sense of community, that sense of connection was a core meaning that we overlaid the experience to, and really helped guide us in any decision making as well. Oh, there's chats. People popping things in the chats. I've just noticed. That's really exciting. Oh, Cries and Pets. Sorry, Kate. We'll come to you next year, I promise. Maybe sooner for something else, not just the conference. And Zoe has shared a link to the 15 core meetings from Nathan. That is perfect. Wonderful. Yes. The next one was enlightenment. And after doing the course with Zoe, enlightenment has actually become a core value within One Roof as well. And so this is clear understanding through logic or inspiration. And because a lot of what we do is support women founders with understanding, with inspiration as well, and feeling those aha moments is what we think of for enlightenment. So that's why enlightenment was core to the conference as well, because when people are there either listening or sharing or speaking, we wanted to facilitate moments of enlightenment. And the last one was truth. Truth is all around a commitment to honesty and integrity. And the reason we picked this one was because we really wanted to honor the experience that women have as women in business, whether they're founders or whether they're part of a business, really committing to not uh, only talking about the things that are shiny or, presenting what appears to be the highlights reel, and peeling back the masks that we often wear as part of the huge mental load that women carry. So, truth, a commitment to that honesty of each person's story and acknowledging what each person has to offer as well. So, that's the overview of the conference. And this is the visuals behind it, the visual assets. So, that's what the concept translated into. Now, let's have a look at the 5 E's, the fun part. What we did for excitement, much like Andy said, when it's building that intrigue and anticipation, is really similar to the feelings that we wanted people to feel ahead of the conference. And I've read some research that, much like booking a holiday, there are positive outcomes from anticipating something and looking forward to something as much as there is to attending or going on the holiday. And so we wanted to build that excitement. We did it through a few ways, but the one that I've popped in here that's really practical and tangible is in terms of the invitation that Andy mentioned. When we sent out those invites, as part of registering for the conference, you were able to select from a series of topics that you were interested in learning about. on the day. So we started getting people involved and engaged and having some sense of choice, empowerment, and autonomy in the lead up to the conference. So they felt like they were contributing to the conference, how they got to shape their experience as well, and really start to be a part of that and start the experience earlier on. And so for Adelaide specifically, these were the experts that we had in the room, and each of them had a different topic associated with them. So we had people talking about AI, diversity, investment, crowdfunding, mental health, HR, all sorts of different topics, cybersecurity. So all sorts of different topics, and people, we asked them to select a minimum of three in the registration form. And of course, we said we couldn't guarantee that they might get all three, but they would at least get to connect with a minimum one of those topics. After that excitement phase was the entry. So fast forward to the actual day itself, when people arrived at the conference venue, we wanted to elicit feelings of curiosity and excitement. And so when people arrived at the entry to the event, we had a check-in counter or check-in table, and everyone received a name card and a lanyard. But we again made it a little bit different and wanted to build on that community connection and moments of enlightenment and truth. And so what we did for that was we on the back, so this was the front of the lanyard card. And so when people arrived, they were given three numbers, and those numbers corresponded to the three topics that they would be engaging with. And so those three topics, I'll share a little bit in a second. Actually, I won't give it away too much. We're still at the entry. So this, and then on the back was connection bingo. So as part of almost like that restaurant analogy that Andy was talking about, you enter and then you're given a menu. So this is something that they were given so they could immediately engage and not sort of feel a bit awkward and not know where to sit or put their stuff or stand. They were given a task to start to move into the next phase, and everyone had this, and so everyone could use this as a talking point. So we had prizes on the day, prizes for the first three people to complete a row, whether that was a column or horizontal or diagonal, and these all required some form of engagement or connection with the community, which again takes us back to the meanings. All right, so now we're moving into this engagement phase. And as you can see, there were three phases. So not including the connection bingo, the first phase was speed friending. So again, coming back to community, we know some people are extroverted, some are introverted, some are ambiverts, and will adjust their levels of energy accordingly. And so we wanted to facilitate this in a way to ensure that people left with new connections, feeling that sense of community and enlightenment as well. And so we conducted rounds of speed friending where people had to meet someone they hadn't met before. They had 5 minutes to introduce themselves, share a little bit about each other, and connect somehow, whether that's social media or another format. And so the feelings there were connection, but also courage. So starting with a little bit of bravery. And there's a really great warm up into the next session. So the next session was the fireside chat. So we wanted to start with something engaging, uplifting, energetic, because we knew people were going to be sitting down for a little bit as well for the fireside chat. And we had three phenomenal speakers who were successful women in business, and how we wanted participants and the audience there to feel in terms of feelings were to be seen, to have that feeling of, okay, like I'm not the only one, I'm part of something bigger, or I'm not experiencing what I'm feeling in isolation. And there are others who have been through it before me. And also awe. So we wanted it to be inspiring, coming back to the enlightenment piece as well. Then after the fireside chat, we had some lunch and then we moved into the mini workshops or the expert circles. So based on the three numbers that each person had on their card, they were then directed to three different rooms consecutively for about half an hour with different experts talking about the topics that they had pre-selected. And so the feelings that I wanted to encourage people to experience for growth, but also understanding. So a combination of feeling extended, again, that enlightenment piece and truth. So the experts were telling their stories honestly, but also sharing skills and knowledge based on their expertise as well. So that was the engagement portion. It went from 10 a.m. to 2:30. So we again designed this with working women in mind, and many of whom are parents, so post school drop off and before school pickup. And here are some fun photos of the crew in Adelaide. So this was really exciting for One Roof because we have um, a lot of large communities on the East Coast, predominantly in Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane, the Gold Coast, and Sunshine Coast. But we hadn't spent enough time with our friends in Adelaide, and so we really wanted to bring something to the community there. And by all accounts and by the photos, they really loved it and were thrilled. And I can't wait to go back. I'm looking for more excuses to go back to Adelaide. I think I've fallen in love with it a little bit or a lot. So I'm really, really pumped to head back there. Yeah, these were our speakers. So much like we do the Alkimia A for One Roof, it's really simple. We just do the number one for One Roof when we take our photos. And yeah, so you can see the lanyards there, the bingo on Ashley's uh, lanyard there, and that's the front of it, and sorry, that's the back, the connection bingo, and then on the front you might be able to see we've written the numbers there for the expert groups. Cool. So the next part, if I can go to the next slide, is exit. So I will say the exit was probably the lightest lift in terms of the 5 E's. We did want people to feel warmth and gratitude because it's what I was definitely feeling and what a lot of people in the room were feeling as well. And so it was a really simple, closing remarks and thanking everyone for being there. Everyone was pretty talked out as well, so I wanted to keep that really succinct. Having said that, though, we did have a slight extension to the exit, and so after the full day, there was an optional piece. I wonder if it's here on the slide. Yes, where we had an optional intimate dinner that evening as well. So people could either finish the day in the afternoon or they could meet us at the restaurant where we had a really beautiful dinner. So if any of you are in Brisbane, Sydney, or Melbourne, come along in October. Zoe's going to be at the one in Melbourne. What I would love all of your help with, however, is the extension piece. So this is the often forgotten part in building an experience. As Andy said, it can be physical or digital in terms of the object, but something that people can take with them. We do have a couple of ideas. I can share what we did in Adelaide. However, I would really love your input or thoughts into what you feel this could be based on everything I've shared. Would love to understand, from your perspective of what you've just heard, how we might bring this to life as the extension piece.